Over a month ago, we spoke about how Bitcoin was entering a danger zone for pre-halving retraces, and we've since had two pre-halving retraces occur. The first one, 18% in March, and currently almost 16% this April. In today's video, we're going to be talking about this danger zone and a lot more. So subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward, and let's dive right into it. So we've been talking about this danger zone for a while, and we've seen retracement in that danger zone. And in fact, we are in the thick of this danger zone. We've been in this danger zone for a month or so, and we've already seen two pre-halving retraces, and actually you could even make the case that this is one single retrace, especially if we give way from the 6600 support to see downside continuation. But generally speaking, we know, and this isn't a surprise to us, that pre-halving retraces do tend to occur. We're seeing an 18%, 16% retrace right now, but in the past we saw a 19% retrace. In the pre-halving period, we saw a 29% pullback in 2016, and if you're taking into account this downside wick, it's 40%. So this current retracement is very similar to the depths of the March 2020 pulling back. And just looking at this chart right over here, you can see that around the halving is when we typically see slowing down in the momentum for a little while, pulling back before embarking on parabolic upside. And that's been the case in each cycle thus far, and it'll probably be the case in this cycle as well. But we really need to look at this retracement period because, like I said, 18% in March, 16% this April, but we've generally seen quite a few retraces in this cycle thus far. So this is really the sixth major retrace, and we've seen 4 retraces throughout 2023. This 22% retrace was going into early 2024, but generally speaking, you can see here 22% retrace, 22% retrace, 21% almost, and 23%. So generally speaking, whenever we see anything getting close to 20% retrace, especially if it's deeper than 20%, that's a fantastic buy side opportunity, especially if you just look at this chart right over here, because we've been seeing many reaccumulation ranges develop throughout the cycle before trend continuation towards the upside. And so based on these pullback estimates, anything getting closer to a 20% pullback is fantastic for Bitcoin, because that's typically when we tend to see limited downside occur, and that's where we tend to typically also see extreme fear, which tends to precede financial opportunity. So we are getting closer to that point. We are getting closer to that reversal point, but we don't quite know exactly where the bottom is, although at the moment 6600 is that bottom. It is holding at the moment, and you can actually see higher lows here, higher low, and these two higher lows for the time being as well. But generally speaking, these corrections do take a fair amount of time. If we look at the earlier corrections throughout this cycle, we'd see corrections of 3 weeks to 2 weeks, but also as long as 2 months. So for example, this 21% and 22% pullback each lasted 2 months, whereas this one here, 23%, lasted 3 weeks. This 22% one lasted 14 days, and this was a 6-day, actually 18% pullback in March of this year. And this is 16% in over 9 days. So this is already a longer pullback than the one we saw in March. It is a shallower pullback than the one we saw in March. But nonetheless, if we do lose 6600 as a support, this area essentially, if we lose that region, then we're probably going to start to see a longer correction. I don't want to say that we're going to see 2 months of downside, although a reaccumulation phase of 2 months after the halving wouldn't be out of the ordinary. But pulling back in general, I would be prepared for several multi-week consolidation or pulling back if this region is lost, because typically we do tend to simply see consolidation for many months after the halving. This was the case in 2020 and also in 2016. So this sort of consolidation needs to take place after the halving. And if we lose 6,600, then we'll definitely see that correction be on the longer end, going into 2 weeks, going into 3 weeks, maybe even beyond. So having said that, we've been talking about altcoins struggling to maintain momentum as in April 6th. But this was attached to a tweet that I mentioned in mid-March where the Q1 altcoin hype cycle could be slowly coming to an end. And that tweet is right over here, where I just emphasize that lowest hype is peak financial opportunity and highest hype is peak financial risk. And as you can see here, peak financial risk is what occurs near the end of quarter one. We are in mid-April right now, so you can see that this just corresponds to that tapering off in the hype. So we're seeing a fall in these altcoin valuations after that fantastic Q1. Now we're entering into this phase of the cycle. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. But the good news is that we're going to get to this point at some point in as early as mid-May, maybe late May, early June to be more on the realistic side. And then we'll once again experience a wave of altcoins in an altcoin summer a little bit in the future. So we'll have to wait for that. And the altcoin market cap really does correspond with that. And this is something I mentioned in February 19th, essentially plotting out my pathway for altcoin market cap to reclaim this $250 billion level, rally to this red region right over here at $315, and then reject back into the blue level before rallying up again. And if we look at this chart and how it perfectly manifested, essentially holding the highs here at, well, first of all, successfully retesting this blue $250 billion level as support, rallying to $315 billion and holding these levels for a little bit longer than what we've seen in the past. But it isn't out of the ordinary that we see deviations take place here. We saw one occur once again, and we dropped right back down into the blue level like we saw back in the past. So a recovery from this blue level, and in fact we lost this blue level as a support even earlier that year, but the general gist is that should this support continue to hold, and it is holding as a support for the time being quite successfully, then we should see price, or at least the altcoin market cap, revisit this light blue level. And that light blue level is going to be something we have to simply wait for many months after the halving. So this is once again a visual representation of what I was sharing just a moment ago, that this was going to be that pathway, my ultimate pathway for the altcoin market cap, and we've seen that play out perfectly pretty much. So now it's all about just being patient and waiting for that final leg up to the light blue circle right over here, and it's going to take some time. And this altcoin hype cycle graphic here is fantastic for that, because we have to wait for this bottoming out period right over here. It will take some time to wait until mid-May, but it will be time well worth spent, especially if you're really focusing on accumulating Bitcoin and altcoins on this market-wide pullback. It will be worth the wait. We know what's happened in Q1 of this year, that fantastic movement. We know what happened also in the end of 2023. We also had a fantastic rally with Chainlink and Solana leading the way. So that also will occur over the summer, but we have to be patient. We have to go with the flow and go with the cycles. And the cycle right now is saying to us that this is a pre-halving retrace, this transitional period from pre-halving retrace to reaccumulation phase. This is the phase we are in at the moment. Altcoins are also following suit, and we just need to be patient, because this phase will transition into a reaccumulation phase, but that's going to precede this parabolic uptrend in the months after the halving. So lots to look forward to. That's about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.